It was one of those nights where everything feels off. I had just finished my late-night shift and decided to stop by a convenience store. The rain had been pouring all evening, so the parking lot was practically empty. It was around 11:30 p.m., and all I wanted was to grab some snacks and head home. When I pulled into the lot, I noticed this guy standing at the far edge under one of the dim streetlights. He wasn't moving, just standing there, facing my car. I thought maybe he was waiting for someone or just trying to stay dry under the light. But something about him seemed off. He wasn't dressed for the weather. No umbrella, no jacket, nothing. He was just standing there in the rain, completely soaked. I tried not to think much of it and went inside. The store was quiet, and I only took a few minutes grabbing a drink and some chips. When I came back out, the guy was gone. At first, I felt relieved, probably just someone passing through. But as I walked to my car, I noticed something that made my stomach drop. There were muddy footprints on the wet pavement, starting from where he had been standing and leading straight to my car. They stopped right at the driver's side door. I froze, looking around the parking lot. It was empty, except for my car and the sound of the rain hitting the asphalt. I hurried to my car, unlocking it as fast as I could. My hands were shaking as I got in and locked the doors. I sat there for a second, trying to catch my breath. That's when I saw it. On the passenger side window, there was a streak of mud. It was like someone had run their hand across the glass. I swear, no one else was around. My heart was pounding so hard I thought it might burst. I didn't wait to find out more. I started the car and drove off, not even looking back. I still don't know what happened that night or who that guy was. Maybe it was just some sick prank, or maybe it was something worse. Every time it rains now, I can't help but think about that streak on the window and wonder what would have happened if I had stayed just a little bit longer. It was late, probably close to midnight, and I was stuck waiting for the last train. The rain was coming down steadily, and the platform was completely empty. I was the only one there, sitting on a cold metal bench, scrolling through my phone to kill time. Out of the corner of my eye, I noticed someone at the far end of the platform, a tall guy in a dark hoodie, standing near the edge, looking down at the tracks. I hadn't seen him walk up, and I'd been sitting there for at least 10 minutes. At first, I didn't think much of it. Maybe he was just waiting for the same train. But something felt off. He wasn't moving, just standing there, completely still, with his hands in his pockets, even as the rain kept falling. I tried to focus on my phone, but I couldn't stop glancing over. That's when I realized he was staring at me. I couldn't see his face clearly under the hood, but his head was definitely turned in my direction. My chest tightened, and I started to feel uneasy. When I finally looked back down at my phone, I heard footsteps, slow, deliberate, and getting closer. My pulse started racing. I didn't want to look up, but I couldn't help it. The guy was walking toward me, still staring, and I could feel my heart pounding in my ears. I just kept my head down, pretending not to notice, but I could feel him getting closer and closer. I wanted to run, but something told me not to. Maybe it was the rain, or the emptiness of the station, or just the fact that I couldn't explain why he was walking toward me like that. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. I looked up. The guy was now standing a few feet away from me, still staring. He hadn't said a word, but the tension in the air was thick. I couldn't even move. Just as I was about to grab my bag and leave, the train pulled in, its headlights lighting up the platform. I turned back to where the guy had been, but he was gone. There was no way he could have gotten on the train. I was the only one who boarded. Even now, I don't know where he went. Maybe he walked off into the rain, or maybe he hadn't been there at all. But I swear, for those few minutes, I'd never felt so sure that something bad was about to happen. It was a late night, and the rain was coming down in sheets. I was walking home from a friend's place, just a few blocks away from my apartment. The streets were empty, and the only sound I could hear was the rhythm of my footsteps and the rain. I was used to this route, but that night, something felt off. I've walked this same path hundreds of times, but for some reason, everything seemed different. The usual comfort of the quiet streets didn't ease my nerves. I passed the usual buildings, the streetlights flickering above, but there was an unsettling feeling in the air. As I passed by an alleyway near the park, I noticed a figure standing in the shadows. It wasn't unusual to see people hanging around in the alley, especially at night. But this person was just standing there, completely still. I couldn't make out any details, just the outline of a man in a rain-soaked coat. I kept walking, telling myself it was nothing, but then I heard a voice call out from the darkness. It was faint, almost like a whisper. "Hey, you." I froze. There was no one else around. I looked around, but the alley was empty except for that figure. My heart started racing, but I tried to ignore it and kept walking. I kept telling myself it was probably nothing, just someone waiting for someone else. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right. Then, I heard footsteps behind me. Slow at first, then faster, until it sounded like the person was almost running to catch up. I turned around, but no one was there. The alley was still empty. The sound of my own heartbeat felt too loud, and I could feel a cold chill running down my spine. I picked up my pace, my mind racing, but as I neared the end of the alley, I saw the same figure standing at the corner, staring directly at me. His eyes were hard to see in the darkness, but I swear I felt them following me. I didn't stop to see what he wanted. I ran the rest of the way home, not looking back once. I've never seen that man again, but every time it rains, I feel like someone's watching me. I still avoid that alley. I don't know who he was or why he followed me, but I can't shake the feeling that I narrowly escaped something that night.